So what is up guys, Nick here helping you to master your technology. I've had the iPhone 14 Pro Max since launch day and I've done nothing but give it tons of praise, talk about how amazing of a phone it is and all that jazz. But in this video, I want to tell you the cons of this phone months later. There's not many of them, a lot of articles out there and a lot of people would tell you this is basically a perfect phone. There are a few here and there, but there's not a ton. But I actually came up with 10 cons over my time using this phone, and this is not to bash and say this is a horrible phone. This is my daily driver iPhone. So I'm get in the comments and be like, oh, if you don't like the phone, just send it my way. You don't need it, okay, bro? You hate the phone? No, I don't hate the phone. I actually really love the phone. It's probably my favorite iPhone yet. Maybe the 11 Pro Max, but still, it's really good here. But here's the cons. I gotta be fair. Let's keep it balanced here throughout the duration of this channel. So we're gonna start with number one. The battery life on this phone is my first con by comparison to my 13 Pro Max. Now it's still good. This phone still gets through a day. I just find it not getting quite as far. And I think this is partly due to always on display and also that they increased the brightness on this phone. So this phone for me, not quite as good as the 13 Pro Max. I am hearing rumors though that Apple is going to take the 15 models to the next level with battery life. So I'm not really concerned for the future of iPhone products, but I will say that not having, amazing battery life on this one by comparison to last year was a little bit of a con. I still am happy with it, it gets through a day, but I just was overly impressed with last year's 13 Pro Max. That thing was getting like almost 2 days, even with heavier use from me. So definitely, I love that. Now, the second con I found is that I just cannot get over the fact that I cannot multitask on this phone. And I'm not asking Apple to make it, overly complex, giving me pop view like Samsung and 17 different features or ways of multitasking. But even something like Google Pixel 7 Pro, if I go ahead and open up an application, all I gotta do is hit split top right here. And I can go ahead and grab anything I want. I can even open the camera down here. Well, not that one actually, just treated my life. So I can open up Amazon here, calculate what it's gonna be. I could bring it up a little bit, bring it down a little bit. I mean, just something like that would be incredibly useful, for this phone. It's just, they don't have to make it overly complex. Like just add some type of multitasking. This thing has a juicy, large screen that is just designed for something like that, and Apple just is not putting it there. I understand human beings, Apple, don't multitask. We think we multitask, we actually task switch. We just kind of move our eyes from one area to the next, and I know they're all about simplicity and focus, but at the same time, just adding a split screen doesn't mean everybody's going to use it. It's just a nice feature for those people that will use it, or the power users are paying $1,500 for this phone. I can guarantee you the majority of people that are paying this kind of money, a lot of them probably know how to split screen on their Apple computer. Regular consumers are probably not buying the top of the line iPhone all the time. So let's go on to the next one, and that is the brightness. I raved about it before, but not that it's like a big con. It's just at nighttime it's a little too bright for me, and also I'm not happy about the brightness really lowering the battery life. So usually having a lot more brightness is great, but I don't even think this was a big deal. You could live without it. Again, not a con, it is an improvement, but I just want to mention something about it. I just wanted to mention that this is something that if they're gonna put this extra brightness, at least keep my battery life the same, because I know that's something that decreased it. The next one is charging the device, so it doesn't charge fast enough. The Android phones I have just smoke this thing in charging. I'm just sorry. It's just the way it is, It charges okay at a decent rate, but there's nothing to write home about. You're not going to be like, yeah, this thing is the fastest charging phone I've ever seen. So Apple, please improve the speed of charging. They're probably not watching this video, but whatever. If they are, if somebody in the Apple camps is, I just simply want a little bit faster charging. Thank you very much. Next one. Dynamic island, and definitely intrudes too much on my media consumption. I can tell you that for a fact. I always see it, and months later, nope, I haven't gotten used to it. I simply have not. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in and show you what I'm talking about. I'm always looking at that pill. Like, it's unbelievable how much I'm looking at it, especially during a video. If I'm watching a video on YouTube or I'm pinching and zooming on a photo like this, I just cannot get over it. It just looks like a supplement. So, you know, it's there, and I love the features that it does. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Apple go away from this just yet. I know they're gonna go all screen eventually someday, but you know, maybe there's a way we can kind of blend it in or something. I don't know. It just kind of intrudes on my media a little bit too much. Not a big fan of that. I don't see that changing much for the future, though. They don't really seem to care about having all screen or any obtrusions on the display. The weight and size at number 6. This phone is just downright heavy. Every time I use this phone and then I go to the smaller Pro, I'm just more pleased with that, or the regular 14 Plus. This thing, you don't really notice it after you used it, but once you compare it to, you know, other options out there, it literally feels like a brick in your pocket. This is a great example, the 14 Plus. Not a very popular phone, but if you're looking for something more lightweight, this will do the trick. It just kind of, it's just kind of heavy. So, you know, it doesn't matter how long I've used it, I always feel it there. It's kind of good though if you don't want to lose it, because honestly, when I'm rocking out with the Mini, I do find myself like having phantom touches in my pockets. I'm like, oh, where's my phone? I'm getting scared. You know, like, I thought I lost it already, but actually it's just sitting in there. It's just so light, you can barely feel that feather. So that can be a pro of it. But honestly, sometimes the weight can be a con, especially when I'm out doing my walks, my jogs, my bike rides, and this thing is like flopping around in my pocket. Not a fan of that, but I know there's solutions around that. Put it on a stand, put it on a bag, put on an arm strap, but it's just a heavy phone. Let's just put it that way. It could be a little bit lighter. You know, some of the Samsung phones are just as big, but they're like 20 grams lighter. So definitely keep that in mind. Next one I think is the con is no Touch ID. You know, I've been using this Sony Xperia phone lately, Xperia 1 Mark 5, I think it is, Mark 4. This device right here, I'm gonna cover it soon, has a triple Zeiss camera. You know, it's kind of a niche device, but it has a fingerprint sensor right here. So, you know, all you have to do is rest your finger. Now, when is this useful? Well, not everybody's wearing masks anymore, but when you are wearing masks, it's useful. When you don't want to look at the Face ID, it's late at night, it's too dark, it's not sensing your face because you have the brightness all the way low and it can't see you. There is areas where it is useful, and I think having this on the iPads, I just don't know why they don't have it right there. It's just very obvious. Would be really cool to have Touch ID option as well right there. If that's too antiquated for Apple, some type of in-display fingerprint sensor would also be pretty cool to have on an iPhone. An in-display Touch ID, you know, the Apple fans and people out there would act like they're the first ones that did that, even though, you know, Pixel has that, Samsung has that. They would definitely act like it's a revolutionary new feature. So definitely, you know, that's a big thing I think they could add, and it's kind of a con of this phone, just having only Face ID all these years later. It's only one way to unlock. I just think they could upgrade that. Next one is ergonomic improvements. I love the overall, you know, build of this phone. Yes, squared body, it's just unique. You know you're using an iPhone when you see this industrial square body. It's iPhone uniqueness, you know, definitely. But I am constantly, you know, thinking about how could they improve the ergonomic feel of this phone. I really miss the curved sides of the iPhone 11 Pro Max. It just feels better in the hand, and I think they can curve the sides a little bit more on the 15 models, or just find a way to make it slightly more comfortable in the hand. It digs a little bit too much in the palms. I don't think it's the most comfortable phone to hold. It is one of the most premium, high-class feeling phones to hold, but definitely not going to be the most comfortable in the corners. So definitely ergonomically, I find that's not to be the best overall, but it's pretty good. Number 9, continuous always on display improvements would be nice. You know, having an always on display has drained some battery from me a little bit more than I would like. So definitely if they can improve battery life there. They have been doing that with some updates, but also improvements to the customization of that always on display, which they also made some improvements there, but even more would be better, because, you know, always on display is a pretty cool feature. You can show wallpaper, show notifications, but adding a little bit more tweaks to that always on display would be nice. You can see they have dimmed it down a little bit, which is good, but Maybe we can get it a little bit. Maybe there's an option we can make it just pitch black or something like that, and maybe the clock can move around. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I think that was a con. Just not the absolute best always on display experience I've experienced, but don't get me wrong, I'm still grateful we have that. You know, finally we have an always on display. Remember, this whole video is about balance. You know, I have my cons, but I have my pros. I've praised it as well, so don't be coming at me too rough. Number 10 is the, you know, switch to USB-C. This is my final one. You know, I keep thinking about where's my lightning port, and then I'm charging my iPad and my Mac with a USB-C. It just don't make sense anymore, Apple. Like, I got premium products from you that have USB-C, and then I gotta find the lightning for one other product. Like, dude, just put the freaking USB-C on here and call it a day. You don't got time for this lightning stuff. I know they're gonna anger a lot of customers that don't. I know the iPhone is the most popular product. Not everybody has a Mac and an iPad, but they've taken buttons off, you know, before. They've taken things off before. They've taken off headphone jacks. They've angered people with that. They've, you know, changed tons of things on the phone before. It's just a switch that I think many people would naturally get used to. So USB-C, please, on the next one, at least on the Ultra model, if they make that rumored model. So that's it for me on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. Several months later, these are my cons. You know, I've always praised it. You know, I don't really talk much BS or give it much, you know, heat in any of my videos. And this one, I wanted to just tell you some of the cons. Now, a lot of them are petty. You know, a lot of them aren't the top. They're not like huge. And that's because phones have matured to a point where they're so good, it's kind of hard to find reasons why it's not great. So still a great phone, but I still think there's room for improvement. That's great. That means in the future, we're gonna have even better iPhone. So thumbs up if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if you have a 14 Pro or Pro Max, what have you been experiencing with these devices? Have you enjoyed it? Have you disliked it, loved it? I'd love to hear it down below. Nick here, be sure to be well. I'll catch you on the next episode, and peace.